Hey there, it's Nathan Masters and Andy Glenn from Team Simpleshot, and today we're just going to get you up and running with your slingshot. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that I've never shot a slingshot before, and Andy's the expert here, and he is basically going to show me how to get on target quick. So if you'll follow these simple rules to the T, we can pretty well guarantee you can be popping cans in the first 15 minutes of shooting your slingshot. If you choose not to follow the rules, we can pretty well guarantee you're going to be frustrated in the first 15 minutes of slingshots, and you may even shoot the tip of your slingshot, which we're going to teach you to avoid. All right, so here we go. I know nothing.
All right, so since you've never held a slingshot before, you have to understand that the bands always go over the top. You never want to pull against these mechanical attachments. And this is a brace style slingshot, so you orient your hands up into here. This is not a hammer style, and it's not necessarily a full pinch because it can put your hands somewhat in the way. So what I want you to do is go ahead and hold on to this slingshot. You can put your hand through the lanyard.
All right.
It's always important.
Always a good idea.
Yeah. So what I want you to do, everything looks good right now. I want you to go ahead and size up with your feet pointed to me.
Okay. And
act like you're gonna shoot. So grab onto the pouch without a piece of ammo in it. Go ahead and pull back, and I'm just gonna see if I can adjust anything to where I can allow you some reference points and how to shoot.
Okay.
All right, everything's looking good so far. One thing that's really important is that I want this to be a 90-degree angle with the bands. So I don't want this tilted forwards, and I don't want it tilted back. It's really important that it's a square 90-degree angle. And also, you want your bands to be the same length. So this is gonna have to be oriented straight to where it's a flat line there. All right, everything's looking good.
So I want my forks parallel to the target. And we can see here that if Andy were the target and I drew back, my forks are parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're not.
Yeah. So it's all important to have the bands the same length. And the second thing I want to talk about is the pouch release. This is going to be the absolute thing that will make or break your shot. So one thing that I find important is not to hold it with your fingertips, but to have it going over the first knuckle and using the bone of your thumb, holding onto the piece of ammo so there's no bump in your thumb. If you're holding on to it like that, there's a high chance that it's going to come off your thumb, your finger's going to go with it, and give you some turbulence flying through the air.
And that's what we call the speed bump effect.
Exactly. So in order for it to release out of your hand perfectly straight, you want to hold on to just the ammo itself, and also pay attention to those strings every time. I look at those strings every time before I shoot, and you should as well. So
now what Andy's saying here is if you have it off just a little bit and say it's like this when you go to release, you fundamentally got one band doing more work than the other band. Now you combine that with not being square at the target, and you can quickly see that the shot will not go straight, but it could also fly into the fork tip or into your hand. So by making sure that your slingshot is parallel to the face of the target and square, and that your pouch is lined up, and that you're not having a speed bump effect, you can mitigate fork hits.
all right, so go ahead and pull back one time, and I want to take a look at what you got and if I can adjust anything for you. All right, one thing I see here that's really important is that his forearm is in line with the bands. You don't want to have your elbow going down. You want to have everything exactly. So
this is something that's very common among beginning shooters, is to come back and have their elbow low. Another thing that you'll see is a lot of folks try to bring it back into the center of their face. That doesn't work. It does two things. One, it decreases your elongation, which decreases your velocity. It also makes it easy to punch yourself in the nose when you release. So just don't put it there. You want to line it up and draw it underneath your dominant eye. Now that's one thing we haven't mentioned is eye dominance. You want to draw it back underneath your dominant eye. So if you're right eye dominant, you would want to hold the slingshot in your left hand so that you draw the bands back underneath your dominant right eye. I'm left eye dominant in this case. So I draw the bands back underneath my left eye, then I can sight down the bands.
all right, so let's go ahead and get you loaded up here. Now it's important every time, if you feel like something's not right, don't go ahead and let it go. Always let down and make sure you're confident that the things we've discussed, the strings, how you hold it, and the angle of your forks are correct before you let go every time. It's something that will, become second nature But as you start out, you really have to concentrate until it becomes habit.
All right, and going back to one thing Andy said about the way you position the pouch on your finger. It's these two fingers that are doing all the work. If you grab the pouch and have your hand together like this, when you go to release, you're having to lift your thumb up. And if the ball is behind that bone, it has to ride up over the bone and it can throw the shot. That's the speed bump effect. One quick and easy way to avoid this is not to have your hand closed. Let these fingers come out right here. So when it becomes time to release, you can open up both fingers. You're not stuck to these three fingers. So think about drinking a cup of tea, keep your pinky out. It may look pretentious, but it'll give you a better shot.
All right, so go ahead and pull back, but don't let go yet. Let me just look at it one more time. All right, your strings are lined up, your forks are even, everything's looking great. All right.
Ah, I missed.
Good thing we've got plenty of ammo.
All right. So what could have gone wrong there, Andy?
A couple of things. One could be your sighting reference. Everything looked good. Let's go ahead and try it. It might have been an anchor point. Now that's something that where you hold onto your face will cause your shot to rise and fall based on the width of the fork as well. So it's all about sighting reference. Some people use a reference, some people don't. I see you're holding it at a 45, so your actual target is somewhat floating in between those forks. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so go ahead and try it one more time. Now your strings are a little off here.
Oh, I see that. All right, that could have definitely thrown my shot.
So that's usually why I get a chance to look at it before. All right, everything looks good. All right.
All right, missed again. What's going on here?
It could be the support arm and the strength of holding it. What you want is that to be completely stable the whole time. You don't want to follow through with your shot.
Ah, I see what I'm doing. So when I release, I'm resisting against the bands and I'm pushing the shot to the right.
Exactly.
All right, so a steady, solid anchor on your frame holding hand.
You want to think about not following through it, not falling away. I actually have to, I have a tendency to fall away. So I will try to actually go forwards, which keeps it steady for me. It's going to be different for everybody.
So we'll try that again.
There we go.
All right, so a steady hand. So you do want to relax grip, but you want to make sure that you're putting that arm out there, and once you're on target, this arm becomes an anchor, rock solid. Come back here to a consistent anchor, rock solid. If you hold both of those, the bands can do nothing but go straight. If they go straight and you're on target, the projectile will hit the target. It's about that simple.
One thing I would always say to people starting out with slingshots is that consistency is key. If you're missing consistently, it's good. You can always adjust small aspects of your shooting style to move your impact point. When you're all over the place, then you really need to get back down to basics and look at each individual process until you can become consistent. It takes time, it takes skill. This is not something that you can just pick up and be great at. We've put some time into it and we sure like it, and we hope you do too.
All right, just to reiterate, we're going to go through the foundational points. So first off, grip your frame as the frame is designed. This frame was designed for a fork-supported grip, where the forefinger hooks over the frame and the thumb supports it. Now, of course, you can pinch grip this. That is not the suggested way. Go with the thumb-supported design. Next, you want to keep the face of the slingshot parallel to the target face. You don't want it moving off one direction or other. What that's going to do is put uneven tension on the bands. Once you've got that figured out, it's all back down to what happens in the pouch. Always make sure the projectile is centered in the pouch, the ties are lined up, that you got your fingers free so that these two fingers can do the work, and that your thumb is straight. Pinch the projectile itself. Try not to pinch in front of the projectile. Let me demonstrate that. This is very important. For best strength, your first instinct is to get in front of the projectile. This is going to do two things. One, it's going to put the ball behind this bone. If you don't have your fingers free, it's going to cause the speed bump effect. That's going to throw the shot into your fork tip. So keeping the fingers free, the thumb straight, and pinching the edge of the projectile. Now this is going to require some specific pinch strength. Certainly it is much easier to get in front of that projectile, but it can throw the shot. So start with light bands, pay particular attention to good alignment, pinch the projectile itself, find a consistent anchor for your frame hand, find a consistent anchor point on your face, and try to do it the same way every time. Thanks for taking a look. Be sure to subscribe.